that surveying company tore up
Is that the one about?
on the county line, on
East
east and west
This
one.
south of Weston's there?
Yep, north of Weston's,
Oh, north of his place?
right on the county line. Swenson Hagen said I can't remember if they said $1,000 or they'd fix a mile of road, but they agreed to whatever one it was. Well, Oliver County went in and fixed that, so I told the commissioners down there, I says, don't leave that on the table, go get that, since you guys did the work. So I haven't heard no more from them.
So it's right north of Weston's.
Yeah. Yeah, the county line is just a half a mile north of Weston's place. It's the same road that they go to the gravel pit, to Joe Seeger's gravel.
Oh, okay. And, yeah, that's in Oliver County, just south of Weston, there's a road that goes to the east too, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's an Oliver County.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a one, well, there's a section line there,
Section
every
line.
mile
Yeah, it
that's
seems like-
roadable. Starting way up on top of the hill by Stan Bruneman, there's every
Yeah,
mile, there's
every
a
mile
section
is a
line
drivable.
that goes back. But they agreed to help with that, so I told them not to leave it, let it go get it.
Mhm. Yeah, good.
No Merlin today?
Pickup's out there.
Is it? Oh, okay. Well, it seemed like a lot of pollen or something, huh?
I think a lot of pollen, dust, and everything else, you know?
Everything else.
Everything you touch is just,
Yeah. We didn't get 10 drops type thing.
yesterday morning, the concrete was wet, but that was it.
Yes, so it's wet.
You could tell that it dried. The night before, we didn't get any, but Center got pretty good shower out of it, and it sounded like Beulah did too. I went up to Senex on Saturday, got some mineral and stuff, and there was puddles sitting behind the Senex store in Beulah.
Senex, huh? I know they got
Said
some
they had hail and everything.
That was just weird, I mean, cloud kind of went towards that.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden, what the heck? I don't know if it was a rain spike or a hail spike, but it was a white streak coming from the west. Oh, well, to the south. And within like 15 minutes, everything was blue all the way around. And we just got sprinkles, you know, on the home, and they said, you know, hail and birds are coming. But it just, I mean, in a matter of minutes, it just,
yeah.
but we got the tail end of the sprinkle.
And they had severe thunderstorms for Grant County about the same time.
Yeah, down at Grant County, yeah.
How do we start correcting?
And, geez, and you know, it looks like the pattern, you know, from Corson County, South Dakota, comes up to Jamestown. You guys must be just drenched in it, huh? Gee, whiz.
Yeah, it's
And I hear,
unbelievable.
well, up in Canada too, you know, goes up, they're like drowning like rats up there. And we got this, you know, we have this window here, it's just nothing happening.
Well, they said that Bismarck's in the beginnings of a, not a severe, but a moderate drought. They're like 5 inches behind.
Okay, everybody please, it's 9 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, and Shannon, will you please do a roll call?
Dwight,
Aye.
Wayne,
Here.
Wayne,
Here.
Marvin,
Here.
Merlin,
Here.
Hey, okay. The next on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Now, we can't add, but we can take out if someone wanted to. I'm just making that clear. So, does anybody have, do we have a motion to approve or correct the agenda?
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Merlin,
Aye.
Wayne,
How about aye?
Dwight,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion passed. Next thing to do is talk about the first thing on the agenda, and that's the courthouse reopening.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I asked that that be put on there.
Okay.
And at our last meeting, we did open this up, but we did not put any stipulations or protocols on there. And in reviewing most all of the courthouses that have opened, they've at least have recommendations that people wear masks and they hand sanitize or wash before they come in. We didn't put any. And I see that we do have more cases in Mercer County, so I would like to keep those in Mercer County and not in the courthouse if we want to put anything on there at all, any direction for people or whatever coming in. And I know that quite a few of the folks I talked to said a lot of people do their business on the phone still rather than coming in and encourage that as a part of some of their opening as well. So that's why I asked to have that put on.
Okay, I guess everybody's gonna have some thoughts on that, and, I'll just, for an example, in line with what you just said, the recorder's office asked me, they said, Marv, most public business here is done in the hallway, through the window. The recorder's office is not that way. They have to open the door and let people come in and review the records. And she asked me, this wasn't Brenda. She says, well, can we put our own stipulations on there? I said, absolutely. I shouldn't say, I said, I'll check, but I don't see why each department couldn't put a posting that once they enter that office, that they have to, number one, sanitize their hands, and two, wear a mask. That was a suggestion. She said, well, I'll run that past, Vanessa said she'd run that past Brenda. So that's one thing that occurred this morning. Dwayne, what's your thoughts on stipulations or rules that we might want to add, or do we even need to?
Well, I don't know if we need to add anything. We follow the CDC guidelines. I became aware after the last meeting that they separate the prisoners in the prison over here to keep them protected and the public protected. I think there are ways to do business here. If people have to enter the recorder's office area, if they wish them to wear masks or hand sanitizer or what, or if they can do it another way, they probably should do it.
Do you think that we need to be involved with the individual departments?
Well,
My first blush says no, that each department can have their own, but
well, that's the way I see it. I mean, look at the way we run this meeting, or we didn't put any criteria on the people that come in here. And if people don't want to social distance, I guess, I don't know, go to Sturgis. But I think, yeah, the numbers are increasing in Mercer County, and I know if I go out in public grocery stores, I wear a mask. So, but I think it's up to each individual department here to if you want to call the word police that, I guess.
supervise. Merlin, with what we just talked about, does that kind of meet what you're thinking? What's your
Pretty much,
thoughts?
basically, I'm thinking, if we have a core set of, recommendations. And if departments feel they need to add or subtract, add, not subtract, add anything for their specific department, that shouldn't hurt anything, just so people are aware of it. Because something is better than nothing, I believe.
Well, Mr. Chairman and the board, the thing is, there's the other side of the coin. If we have something happen here and we have to quarantine X amount of offices, we're right at the very critical time. We gotta get our mill levy set. The tax director's got certain things that's gotta get done. The treasurer's got certain things. Can you imagine a lack of prevention? Can you imagine what this would do to the courthouse system? If something would break out here? I mean, these people have to go home and quarantine. We got deadlines, you know what I mean? That's gotta be done. So I don't think you wanna be overly laxed on this. Ounce of protection is a pound of cheer,
I'm gonna ask Shannon to expound on what Wayne just said, because there are some guidelines that I've read, and she's more familiar with them than I am, what happens when a department person is determined to have it. So what's your thoughts on this whole discussion thing?
Well, I've talked to First District Health
who?
and First District Health.
Okay,
And so when somebody is a positive case, the state then goes and does the contact tracing. So in order to be a close contact, you would have to be within 6 feet of them for 15 minutes or longer to be considered a close contact. So like I look at my department, if somebody would contract or be a positive case for COVID, the chances are that the other two would have to quarantine would be probably slim to none because we sit so far apart. And most departments sit that far apart. So I don't know if that would be, if that's, and the state does call you if you're a close contact and then lets you know if you have to quarantine. So we have the sign at the front door to sanitize your hands when you come in. And I guess we hope people use it, but other than that, it's a guideline. I don't know how strict we can be if we're open to the public and don't have somebody out there monitoring it.
and we talked about having masks, requiring them, and then we may have to supply them and sell them to them, or do temperature, and we pretty much, as I recall, decided that we weren't gonna go down that road. Does anybody else feel that we should, or what are you guys' thoughts on being more strict? Anybody wanna offer something?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Again, I think, if we do masks and all these other things, that would be recommended type thing, not a requirement, and that, again, we keep hearing time after time with the governor's news conferences and things like that from the health department, personal responsibility type thing, so hopefully, people would have enough common sense to do some of this stuff so that they don't get sick or make others sick as well. I think we have responsible citizens in Mercer County that, it should work okay. But again, just have it out as kind of a reminder, yeah, the courthouse is open, but, please take into consideration these recommendations that we have.
I like those, give me your recommendations.
My recommendation is to wash or hand sanitize upon entering the building.
Okay,
Try to do as much business over the phone as you can without having to come to the building.
okay. What else?
Masks are recommended but not required.
Thank you. She's reading our minds. Go ahead, what else would you recommend?
I think that should pretty well cover it. Like I said, it's better than nothing like we had before. I think like I said, we opened her up, but, like I said, some of the courthouses I've checked with have those things in them.
And social distancing, I guess, would be
Yep.
something people should keep in mind.
I would agree with Merlin and Dwayne 100% on their recommendations. Does anybody have anything they want to add or disagree?
And Mr. Chairman, like we said, we do have things posted outside here covering some of those things already, but again, just as a reminder.
Okay.
And, you know, like we said, with these cases increasing in Mercer County, you know, it's probably just a time to revisit and take a look at that.
Okay, Shannon, how would you suggest that we put this reminder out there?
Well, we can put it on our website, and then I think we can just put a sign on the front door.
Does that work for us?
I mean, I don't know how else you're gonna reach everybody, and then if each individual department, like Brenda could put a sign if she wants to require masks upon entry. Public must wear masks in the recorder's office.
Okay,
Most of us don't have public in our office,
Okay.
so.
I would like to use Shannon's recommendation that we put it on the website, we post it, but I would like to add to Merlin's and Dwayne's suggestions, individual departments can determine more specific requirements as needed.
In the other part is they may, I don't know if they have capability here, which I think they would, but the temperature check, you know, there are a lot of places that do that too.
I don't wanna go down that road, does anybody else? It's another staff person.
You say the sheriff, if they bring people in.
They do all
I-
their protocol.
That's what I would do. I mean, he can do what he wants to do, but if it
There's
was
a
me.
separate protocol there for court dates and
Yeah, they got their
other
own
reasons.
deals.
They do check temperature of people coming in for court dates, so that's their own, that's what I think required by the state court.
So Wayne, would that be covered under what we just said, that individual departments can supervise this, have more restricted? It's already covered that way, would that work for you?
That would work, yeah, that's
Okay.
what I was.
And if we do have public coming in and spreads this disease and some of our employees get sick, then maybe we can revisit, maybe have to go to a little stricter protocol.
Yeah, we'll deal with that too. Yep. Are we all in agreement with this then? Okay, there's one other part that I want to add about courthouse reopening. I strongly object to the sheriff closing off our public hallway. We never asked for that. I'm wondering where he got authority to do so. He restricted access to public bathrooms and to public offices.
Well, I would maybe request the state's attorney's opinion on that.
I'm gonna go there, but I'm gonna continue with what I'm
Sorry.
saying. No, that's all right, I'm thinking slowly, very slowly.
I think none of us here are, I wasn't aware of that till this morning, so none of us here know why they did that.
And that's another thing I was gonna add, commissioners were not notified. And I would ask that our state's attorney provide
An opinion probably as to whether he's,
legal opinion whether he can do that.
It's just kind of strange to me that we open up the courthouse and the same day that wing gets closed down. That's,
It's been closed since before the commissioners closed the courthouse.
It was, yeah. We're
Well,
gonna review this though.
But yeah.
I used to
but-
be able to go down to the bathrooms there when I came to meetings and never had a problem. Now the doors chain shut.
Well, you can still go use your key card to get in that other door.
Does my key
You have to
card
use-
work?
It should. You have to just use the vestibule.
I don't believe it does.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I
I'm
don't
not
think
sure.
it does.
Yeah.
Does-
Somebody want to take their key card and see if they can get through that door? I don't think you can, but regardless.
does that include,
The question I asked the state's attorney is, Does the sheriff have authority to block off that corridor? Is that pretty blunt or simple? Okay, Dwight?
Does that include traffic coming this way for the candy and the pop machine from the sheriff's office?
No.
Or is that just the one way?
Just the one going by Pam's office and state's attorney's office, that hallway in the public bathroom. The sheriff can lock his own department. He has that. There's very good security down there. To me, that's a public hallway. I wanna know who gave him authority, and if he has legal right to do so. When do we wanna be notified? The reason I ask that is because I called the sheriff and sent an email. I think it was 2 days ago at least. I have not received an answer.
Is Jessica around, I wonder?
She
She
is.
got court?
What's a reasonable amount of time for her? Think she
And it was
needs?
just court Wednesday.
Wednesday?
I wouldn't think it would take too
Thursday.
long. Today's Monday.
Is Thursday okay with you guys? To have her get an opinion back to us? We don't know her schedule and we gotta be fair.
Well,
but-
she's got court Wednesday. I don't know if she's gonna have much time to.
Okay, what day would you recommend?
Today.
Okay, that's his recommendation.
Today?
If we can get it.
If not today, let's give her an option.
Like I said, it's not gonna take much to research that. I guess if it was me, I'd probably say you can do it.
Will you put down as soon as possible, end of week at the latest? Is that okay with you guys? Is that all right with you, Merlin?
Yeah.
We don't budge our schedule because we don't know what it is. Does anybody else have any further comments about that courthouse reopening or that hallway? There being no further discussions on that, we'll move down to the next item on our agenda, and that's to work with this preliminary budget. There's some things that I want to demonstrate, I guess. And the first thing that I want to talk about is some of our revenue streams. And I think I handed this out to you guys quite a while ago. It says Mercer County revenue by type. You guys should all have that. There are just a few pages there that I walked through that have some questions on it. Okay, if you guys have that, if you go to page 30, do you have that, Shanna?
This one?
No. It's revenue by type. I handed it out a long time ago. I'll just talk about it.
Okay.
So, revenue by type, it says that DOT reimbursement goes to the county road fund, which is 2140. And our reimbursement is about $83,000. This sheet shows me that 100% of it goes to the road, county road, correct? Okay. What I would like to know is if that could be added to our transfer sheet.
Where are we transferring it?
Hmm?
Where are we transferring it?
It's DOT, well,
It's a check, we got a check for that, a paper check.
okay,
So then I just put the county road number on it and deposit it into that account.
okay. Now it goes on the transfer sheet, that's,
Would that be like federal aid,
That's like, yeah, that's when we get, when we,
reimburse?
yeah.
From road projects, from the feds, and then
Yep.
they send us a check, right?
Yep.
okay, it's one of the questions I have, it just looks like this. I have all the sources of revenue, individualized. This here's that detailed report that I was hoping for rather than looking through the revenue unit, but I looked through it. Everybody okay with that? Shanna answered the question? Okay. Payments from Coteau, it's on page 32 of this sheet. And that is about 34,000.
That's a bill back. That's a bill back, so county road pays the bills and then, we bill them back for it.
Okay.
Or county road does the work for them. I'm assuming, what year are you in, 2019? I don't know what road that would have been, but yeah, we do bill backs for the mines. We bill them back for work performed or services performed. Or something, a lot of times it would be just like an engineering thing too. Interstate bills us and then we turn around and bill them for what we had to pay Interstate.
Okay, does that need to be something that we want on this year's?
Nope, I don't have any bill backs
Okay.
for this year.
But zero this year, right?
Yeah, I don't have any of that stuff on the county road budget. If we have those, Eric usually puts it on that page.
4. That's what I think we have on our budget sheet too. That's to the youth bureau, right?
Yeah, and remember this year, the city share is 55-1. We went through that on Wednesday,
Where's your, I'm gonna look on your budget sheet, I don't recall.
and then the rest of it is the transfer in.
Okay. The city share,
It's cities and schools, but
and that amount is how much?
55,100.
So if we add that 55 to the general, to the youth bureau, we're gonna come up with what we have for,
Well, the 55,100 gets deposited right into the youth bureau. And then they also receive $4,200 for rent reimbursement that gets
Right.
deposited. And then they also get a $1,300 capital improvement check. So that total is 60,600 of revenue they bring in on their own. Their budget is 183,238. And then you subtract that off.
so if we add,
So they need a transfer in of 122,638 from the general fund. And that's listed on the bottom.
yep. Okay, good. The clerk of court fees, you have, that's on page 38. The only question I have is,
6,000?
the only question I have is the amount. The clerk of court fees in 19 was 134,000.
Oh, yep, that comes off of our, budget specific, county specific data from the DACO. Every biennium, they increase those rates.
Okay, that's why it jumped in my mind. It was 134, and on your budget, you have 138,600.
Yep, and that's based on the, county specific data from the DACO.
Okay,
And that doesn't change, now it'll be the 138 for next budget cycle as well, and then it'll change again in
okay.
22.
The fees from county recorder, page 39, it's about 14.5 thousand. Is that one of those checks that you're talking about? It says fees from county recorder to document reservation.
That's her ender and refunds that she gets from her separate account.
It's not a transfer or anything like that?
No, it's a check.
It's a check. Thank you. And the last one I have, oh, there's a couple other ones here yet. The pesticide fund, it's about $2,000 is all it is, and it looks like 100% of it goes to the extension agent.
Well,
That one's,
remember when Craig explained that to you guys, that's like a special revenue fund for them. They put fees in there and then they only spend what's in that account. They can't spend anymore. So they usually just put a 2,000 expenditure, 2,000 revenue in there, but they spend what they need to out of there.
okay. The pesticide, I thought, well, why wouldn't it go to the weed board or something? Why does it go to the extension agent?
It is for extension.
It is extension.
He's,
Training.
he got training for instance, which one is it?
Restricted,
yeah, the Tordon.
restricted chemicals,
And-
fungicides, all that training.
Yeah, and there's some literature that they hand out and this and that, so that's for that particular classroom program, I would say.
Okay, all right, I should see if I can remember that next year.
That's all right.
Next one is other miscellaneous reimbursement. It's on page 52 of this report that I got here. It's $361,000.
What fund did that go
Here,
in?
just, it goes to a lot of services. It goes to a whole
Oh,
bunch of
well,
funds.
everybody has an other miscellaneous reimbursement. Not everybody, I shouldn't say, but, you know, the general fund does, that's where, this year I put in the, social service indirect cost refunds, that's what line item we use that for. Special vehicle fund, when they have miscellaneous reimbursements, that's if they would trade off a vehicle or sell it or something else. The youth bureau, their miscellaneous reimbursement is their capital credit checks, say for asset forfeiture or for task force. County road, theirs is if it's not like a permit or something like their capital dividend checks, they go in there. Anything that doesn't have a specific
Got it.
line item goes in there and is recorded as such.
Okay. The next one I have, there's only two or three more. Walking right through there. Social security reimbursement. It was 44,000 last year, and you have 48,600 in the budget.
So the social security reimbursement is the, employee share of their social security, of their FICA and Medi taxes. Those get, for the general fund employees, it gets deposited into that account, and then when we pay the taxes out, it goes out as well. It goes out of the expenditure side on, 1001490662221, which is page 47 of your expenditure book that I gave you.
Yeah. Okay. Because it was 44 and 19, is 48,600 what you want for this year, and why?
Yes, because when I recalculated it,
It looks like a calculation, because it's 48,616, I mean, it's a specific number.
yeah, and it is a very specific number.
And
And actually, that might be even a little shy of what it needs to be. It goes on pay and it goes on hours worked and things too. So it looks like 48, even 47, we're gonna surpass the 47. It's basically a pass-through. 'Cause it comes in and it
You're
goes
comfortable
out.
with that number,
I am,
48,600?
yeah, and I don't have my calculation sheet here, but there was, yeah.
Okay. I don't think that we need a calculation, as long as I just looked at it, saw the difference, so I'm just curious.
Yeah.
County correcting is, to the general fund. That should be on the transfer sheet, right?
It was on your transfer sheet last year. It was on the bottom down here on this side. And it probably is on 2020's transfer sheet as well, which I gave you a copy of.
Just, yeah, I don't have a number.
Yeah, it's on
County
here.
corrections to general says 2,175.
It's, yep. So county correction fund, the comprehensive health fund, and the social security fund, those were all funds that were eliminated during the 2015 legislative session. And they all got moved into the general fund. So after our last audit, I asked our auditor what I should do with those, because the 3 years of past, you know, people have 3 years to pay taxes, so they would have been apportioned to those accounts for 3 years afterwards. And he said just to move it all into the general fund, which is also what we're gonna have to do with our social services fund too. Steve Reiser told me that it needs to go into the general fund.
So the question that I got is
That was just the balance of those, what was in those accounts.
2,000, there's 2,175, that's all that's left in county corrections?
Well, now it's at zero because we moved it in April, yep.
I'm confused now.
That's what the balance in that account was. Because when that year,
The reason I'm confused is we're budgeting for 2021, right?
Yeah, but that's not a-
2020 revenue, right?
right, this happened in, this was in 2020. This was an approved budget transfer when you guys approved the 2020 budget. It happened in 2020. So these are 2020 transfers. This isn't 2021. That sheet you're looking at, this is the current year right here.
Okay,
This is what's been transferred in thus far this year.
and there's nothing on the budget sheet because it's all used up.
Right,
Thank you.
yeah.
I think that's all I have.
I have one question, Shanna, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Of
Uh,
course.
President Trump signed these orders
I know.
for unemployment and then a tax holiday.
But you have to pay it all back at the end of the year.
You have to pay it back? Okay,
So I'm gonna have to talk to my programmer for one, and I'm gonna have to get a form made up for every employee to see if they actually want to not have to pay taxes till the end of the year if they want. I'm assuming most people are gonna wanna pay their taxes, so they don't have to pay the chunk at the end of the year. But, yeah, we'll get on that. I think it goes through in September already, so.
well, I don't know, there's questions whether Congress has to approve this spending that he's doing.
Yeah, and the other part is NADACO, when something like this goes through, Terry Trainer will be the first one to jump on it and give all of us auditors the training we need on it. So kind of
Okay.
waiting for something from them to come down.
Just curious, that's all.
It's gonna be messy,
It's kind of a mess, I think.
yeah. Yep.
Okay, the next thing I had was the meal levy sheet, which I handed out, it's all colored up. And all that does is just reference. It says what we did in 19, what we did for 20, and what we're hoping to do for 2021. Janet can glance through that, I'm sure she knows those numbers by heart, those meal levies. I think I copied them accurately what you had on the worksheets that you gave us. One thing I want to, there's a couple of things that we have to do. One thing we have to do, but I want you guys to be aware of. If you look at 2019 for 2020, that's the green. And you look at this year's, which is the far right hand, the pink, some of those values went up. And it's a little over $600,000. I'm doing the math in my head, so it looks like about $600,000. So, what I want you guys to be aware of, and that's even though we transferred in $705,000 to the general fund from our health insurance fund. And we still had to raise our taxes to pay our bills. So what I'm showing is that, and I've mentioned in the past, that historically, our general fund comes in short. And we haven't lowered any of the expenses, but we had to raise the revenues to take care of it. I want you guys aware of that we're still increasing our revenues, but we haven't done anything to decrease our costs. I'd like to be able to do both. Now, one thing on here, and this here, Shannon can clear up really quickly. Southwest Water is not shown on the budget sheet or the worksheet, but it's on this sheet. I don't think it should be.
Yep, I have to legally levy one mill for them, it's the law.
Did that go off in 2020? Will you please check that? I think this was the last year. In other words, if it has to be on there, it should be on all three.
Okay. Yeah. I have a letter from them somewhere.
That's where I got it, and I looked it up last night, and if I didn't read it wrong, 2020 was the last year. So let's
You
just,
said 2020, we have to levy though yet in 2020, and 2021 is, you know,
that's why I
like.
say I want you to research that. So let's just leave that as a comment for Shannon to double check that.
I would like that left in there for the preliminary approval though, until we know for certain
Read with you guys?
that we don't have to levy it.
Sooner, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Then, if it's on this certificate, I think it should be on worksheet or the budget sheet too, yes or no?
Well, the budget sheet only prints to 6,001. And Southwest Water is 8,405. So, I don't know how to print it on a budget sheet. I can add it to,
It should be added
I
some.
can add it to
or
this
it should-
page.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I'd like to know if we couldn't add it to our mill levy table. You have a mill levy table, and you just, this is a hand done. You provided mill levy tables in the past.
Yep, and that's on there, on my mill levy table, and this is, I just put it all on one sheet to condense some of the worksheets, so I have the budgeted mills on here, but this also only goes to 6,001. So, but yes, I can add it to this sheet so that you can see the,
Can we add it to the worksheet too, so when I look back and forth, I can find it? If I see it on the budget, I say, where did it come from?
yeah, we can do that.
And so,
Because the other one that's not on there is, state medical, we have to levy for that 1 mil, and soil conservation.
when I looked at your previous mill levies that you send out, they look like, this sheet that I did, this colored one, this here's a mirror of how she does it. I just added some columns. It shows the total levy, then with everything all together, so this is a copy of, I just added some columns to it. So, we're gonna leave Southwest Water on there. It's 1 mil, it's 52,000 plus, and, we need to address that question for the final budget.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Shanna, do we levy any more for the state mill and elevator?
The state medical center?
No, the elevator up in Grand Forks. It's just, there, at one time, all the counties had a mill levy for that elevator up there, the state, they call it state elevator, Dakota Made. And,
I've never levied for anything for an elevator before.
yeah, well,
I don't think so.
evidently it went away because we don't.
Profits they're making, they probably should, they're making good money.
Well, they are, and they must have changed it some, but I know there was a day that all the counties had a levy 1 mil for that, so. And so hopefully that went away, because we don't see it on here anyhow, so. This sheet here has all the, I mean, this one has all the levy, like that.
Well, that's all I had on the mill levies. Is anybody else, so you see what the mills are and then what the values are, that's what's in the pink there.
Yeah.
And you compare it to the previous years. It's just, okay? Well done with that, we'll move on. Transfer table. Shannon just pointed out, this is the 2020 transfer table. I, for one, would like to see a 2021 transfer table.
And I can do that, but remember that all the transfers are on this sheet as well. And I did update it to reflect, Jim Albert's 50,000 going into the building fund. The transfers out stayed because Jim's 50,000, transfer out and the 240,000 transfer out were in the departmental budgets. It wasn't out of the transfer line. The transfer line is the 10014999999. The 50,000 you guys had allocated was in his departmental budget, and the 240,000 that you had allocated for Siren was in Dean's departmental budget. So those will be reflected on the transfer table that you see in front of you. It'll show specifically that it's going to those, one's going to the building fund and one's going to the public safety fund, and you can see where I have the 240 allocated to go into the public safety fund there too. So those will be on that transfer sheet. So this budget sheet with the blue and gray and white is the full, it has every transfer that we have discussed in the last month on it. So that will match this.
Okay, for our final budget,
I will have a transfer table.
we'll have a transfer table like this.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes, and I kinda got a question answered that.
Kind of, or you do?
Kind of. Because I was visiting with Jim about this as well, and, you know, we zeroed out his building improvements line item. And he said, well, in the past, what's happened is they've had money in there, and if there's money at the end of the year, it transferred automatically into the building fund. I was wondering when we quit doing that, or what the story is on that. Is that kind of just what you were talking about?
We quit doing that when we started building our courthouse and jail. So I guess at the last meeting in December, if the board wants to look at the revenues and expenditures at that time, you can make a motion to transfer what he has left in his budget to the building fund. But that's gonna be up to the board if they wanna do that or not.
Okay.
Okay. Glad you brought that up, Merlin. You reminded me of something I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna hand this, I'm gonna read it, and I'm gonna give it to Shanna. And I think we need to do this. You guys tell me. I'm pretty sure we do. When we transfer that $705,000 from the health insurance into the general fund, I think it would behoove us to put that on record, why we did that and exactly what that money's for, so that when we all go away, 3 years from now, they do an audit and say, this is what occurred and this is why they did it. And it kind of says that we're supposed to do that, right here. Transfer of money from other funds, you can read it, and I've read that to you guys many times. It's 112307. When you transfer money from one fund to another, it's a paper trail.
You wanted me to read it?
No, you don't need to read it, just for your own information and hand it to Shannon.
Okay. I thought you wanted me to read it. I charge extra.
Okay, I'll read the bottom part. Well, go ahead and read if you want to.
Okay. The bottom part says here, the board shall place on its records a statement of all such transfers with the reasons therefore in detail, and shall report fully and specifically thereon in the published statements of its proceedings.
So this thing should be in the minutes. I don't know where else we would put it.
Or would you find it appropriate when we pass the final budget? When you have your motion in there that you're passing the final budget, to include such transfers and then list all the transfers, like now when we approve the budget this fall, and the reasons why we're transferring at that time, because then it's still on the public record.
I would think that's exactly where I was going, and that's very appropriate if
I
you
mean,
guys
it'd be a
don't
good
mind.
place for it, because
Yep.
you guys approve it, it's already getting approved when you pass the final budget.
Mhm.
And it's
So we could just list them in there at that time with the reasoning behind them,
Plus, it's easy to find.
yeah.
You just
When you're
go
talking
to-
about budget
You
stuff,
go
then
to budget, you look at the budget, what did they do? Well, here the motion, you know, you don't have to go through a bunch of minutes, I think that'd be a very appropriate place.
Okay. Dwayne?
I agree.
Dwight?
Yep.
Merlin?
Yep.
Okay, so let's remember to do that all the necessary transfers that we need to document, that we bring them up and do so. Especially that one, that was a big one, that was, that's okay there. Let's see what else I got. This is a little bit of a side note, and I'll give this to Shanna, I'm not sure if she has it yet. One time I brought up that when we talk about wages, that what's the benefits to wages ratio? And I think it's pretty high. And I'll I don't think it's part of this discussion today, it's part of the budget. If we get to the final budget and we wanna talk about wages, I think you guys need to know this. And that's why it's just part of the thinking. So what I did, Shanna, is that, again, this needs to be checked for accuracy. It really needs to be checked for accuracy. I went through the expense lines, and I got all the salaries of everything I could think of, all the things that had to do with personal expenses, like vacation, sick leave, social security, retirement, unemployment, health insurance, everything I could find that had to do with paying staff. And I made a little report, and then I sorted it by what I think, and I wanna be very clear, I'm not sure some of the benefits, are they benefits or are they part of the regular pay? So I sorted it by that. And I'll just give this to Shanna and have her review it. The reason I'm bringing this up is, I said I think our benefits are over half of our salaries. With this report, it looks like they're quite a bit over half, but it needs to be checked. And one of the things that I offered with Shanna is that maybe we could work together and maybe she could help me look at this when she has time and get us a report back. And I can send this to you. Do you want the Excel spreadsheet?
What are you exactly looking for? I have,
I want a ratio of benefits to salary.
well, I have everybody's salary in one spreadsheet, and on the other tab of my worksheet, I have all of their benefits, which would be the employer share of health insurance, retirement. And I don't know if I have social security on it, but I have that already in a spreadsheet.
Okay, will you provide that for me, please?
Yes, but let me check the legalities of it, because I don't know with health insurance if I can share that.
I don't need individual, I just need what we pay out.
Oh, you just need totals? Oh, yeah, I can get that for you.
I don't want individuals, there's no way. Here's what I.
So I'm not gonna forward you my spreadsheet then,
Pardon me?
I won't forward you my spreadsheet on benefits, but I'll give you totals.
Totals.
Okay,
And itemized, please. Like I have vacation and sick leave,
okay, yeah,
that's a total. Social security, retirement, county share, that's a total. Life insurance, county share, that's such a small amount, but that's a benefit, right, Shanna?
yeah.
Unemployment comp, is that a benefit?
No,
No.
not for public sector. So
Okay.
salary, health, retirement,
Let me read through these. So far, I'm just about done already. Health insurance, right?
yep,
Payment of claims. Medical examination fees, is that a benefit?
no.
Requirement?
That's probably a requirement for employment.
The medical examination fees, that's our pre-employment drug testing and our random drug testing,
Okay,
what's required.
I think that's it. That's all the stuff that I had listed for benefits.
Okay, salary, health, retirement, social security, and life insurance, you had said, right?
I'll just read them really fast. I'm not sure which way you said that. Vacation, sick leave,
Oh, vacation sick leave.
social security, retirement, life insurance, employee assistance program,
That's not, that's just every 6 months we have a bill.
it's still a benefit.
I know, but I don't know who utilizes it. I only get a utilization chart. I don't know, I only get a total number of employees that utilize
Okay.
that program.
I'm very familiar with that program. We had it out where we work too. A lot of companies have that. It is a paid program that we offer as needed, when they need it. It's very confidential, but it's still a benefit. We're paying for it.
Kind of a benefit.
And then I got health insurance, payment of claims, dance deputy premium, and I think you told me that last week was a benefit. That's all I have for benefits. Okay, totals. All right. Then you're gonna give me total, give me that ratio.
I'll give you totals, you're figuring out the ratio, because I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for.
I
That
can do the
work?
ratio, yeah.
Okay,
So you got a total of benefits and then a total of employee pay,
yep,
those two numbers. And then if it ain't clear, we'll talk about it again.
okay.
That is all the specific stuff, can we use those words,
Yeah.
that I wanted to talk about today. Now we can go right in. I wanted to review the revenue streams, so everybody was aware of the revenues, and I think we are. And I wanted to let you guys know that, where's that mill levy table? I got it here someplace. We've been raising. There, thank you. Here's I'll just say this, I said at the beginning of the meeting, we're still raising our taxes to pay for our general fund expenses. I think we also need to cut some expenses as the preliminary budget, and this, you guys help me with this thought, not to cut anything on the preliminary budget, because we can always reduce. Unless you guys wanna make a definite motion to cut something and we vote for it, we'll do that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I believe, we've said, or at least I know you have, and I probably have too, that what we probably wanna do is budget our expenses a little bit higher and the revenue's a little bit lower, so we have leeway to work with here, and I think that's kind of what we've got at this point. Like we said, we can always change it after today. We can't go higher on any items, but we can always lower them.
I agree with you. Shannon, that legal paper I gave you that I underlined, can I have that? It says, there's a comment in there, I think I want to read someplace else. It has to do with what Merlin says, if I can find it. Oh, it's cut off. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's 11/23/02. I'll just read the last one. There's 9 items on, I think it's 11/23/02. The amount of cash reserved for the general fund and each special fund not to exceed 75% of the appropriation for that fund. So, if we're appropriating general fund of $5.9 million, the amount of cash reserved on that fund could be 75% of that. We don't have any. That's where I made the statement, it follows with what Merlin just said, it's right there. That we have something for the what ifs. And that's where I said that I believe our expenses should be 85% of our revenue. That's just my number. I want to get to where we have a sound general fund budget. Right now, if you look at the revenues for the budget, it's $5.9 million. If you look at the expenses, it's $5.9 million. That's why I firmly believe, not today maybe, but before we get to the final budget, we need to cut some expenses. We don't have anything for what is. And if we even make a mathematical estimation that proves incorrect, we're in the hole again.
That includes the 700,000 we've already
Yep.
transferred from the insurance fund.
Yep.
So really, to me, by doing that, transferring that 700,000 from the insurance fund, we just decreased our net worth $700,000 right there.
We absolutely did. In this
To balance
case,
the budget.
it's totally justifiable. That is a fund that was taxed for a specific purpose, and we only took half of it. We still have half of it left in there. We're using it for what it was taxed for, and rather than raise the taxpayers' taxes, we're using the money that we've already accumulated for that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think spending down money that's in reserves for a specific purpose, I think that's the right way to do it, because our focus should be on the general fund, not maintaining the health insurance fund balance of 1.5 million.
That's not our goal.
Right,
But our goal is to leave enough in there
right,
that we don't get ourselves caught.
right.
And I think by only taking 705 of the 1 point,
5.
it's not quite that, but let's just say 1.5. We did that responsibly,
Yeah, well, it'll be 1.55 at the end of the year,
okay? So,
so.
and so anyhow, I just want you guys aware of that. When it comes time to the general fund, or the final budget, we need to be strong and do the hard decisions and see what we can do to reduce our expenses. Right now, we're raising our taxes from, let's see if I can find, what's the dollar value we're raising the taxes? Do you have that on top of your head, Shanna?
No, I don't.
Hang on, let's see if we can find it.
I don't,
What was the mill last year? Remember? I don't have that either. Anyhow,
51,588, but
What?
that, it was
Yeah.
51,588, but that was the net mill, not the gross mill. You have to, when you compare, you need to use the gross mill.
okay, we don't have that, but,
I'm showing right now with the way you guys have set your preliminary budget according to this spreadsheet, it's a 2.16% increase.
so.
That's what you would be approving if you
Mhm.
approved it as is.
So last year, our mills were 41, and we had a lower mill value. Now we went to 45.5.
We had a higher mill value last year.
Oh, that's right, we did come down, you're correct, thank you.
So that's why, I mean, that has to
That's how
compensate
it
for a
com-
lot of the, political subs too.
Okay,
So then that should balance out.
It's at.
2.1%.
2.1%
2.1% increase. So anyways. I'm just gonna go down the line. Dwight, is there anything that you're concerned with on this budget that we need to talk about?
well, I guess I just don't feel like I'm being very responsible when I transfer in $700,000 to the general fund that's needed to help balance the budget. How is that responsible? That should be $700,000 extra, not $700,000 we need to balance the budget. That's my feelings.
Wayne?
Well, I'm just thankful that we have 700,000 to transfer. One thing, is a little bit out of the circle here. When you talk about what ifs, we've had the last 3 to 4 years, beautiful, basically winters. And all of that weather events affects the heating and stuff at this particular place, plus all the extra expense that can be in the road department. So we've been very fortunate on that side of the coin, because we haven't had to buy a whole bunch of chains and didn't have to buy a whole bunch of fuel, but Mother Nature could do this to us, and it could get rough. So, there might be still some areas that can be trimmed. I'm not gonna say that there isn't, but we've gotta be careful how far we trim in those areas, because if something goes down, we gotta have the money to refix it again too, so.
Can I make a comment to that?
Yep.
Remember that county road is their own fund. So Ken budgets $225,000 each year for his gas, oil, and fuel, which is what you're coming to with the point, I'm guessing, with
Yeah.
being out in machinery and extra equipment and things. Like, as of to date, he's only spent 57,000 out of that account. So I think he does prepare for the unknowns, and
Okay.
we just don't spend it if we don't need to, which is,
Well,
I
that,
can say, like, every department head is like that. They don't spend
right.
if they don't need to, so.
And it's good they do that, because last thing we need is a courthouse full of people that didn't get to go to work because we couldn't get the road open.
Right, or
And-
emergency
and this
services
is a-
not being able to get places.
Yes, and this is a moving county here. We got nursing home, hospital, we have power. This is a moving county, so that has to be pretty high priority that these roads are passable, if all possible. So, good, that's,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And Shannon, for more clarification, maybe I'm foggy today for some reason or another, but if there is revenues left over, if there's money left over, like in Ken's budget,
It stays in his account.
it stays put?
Yeah,
And he can carry it over to the next fiscal year?
right, and if you look at your, transfer sheet, I should have brought in 19, I think Marvin has a copy of it, but, you can see that we had projected to transfer 2.1 million into county road. To date, we've only transferred in 800,000. We don't transfer in if we don't need to. And on another note, Craig had talked to the board about how he turns money back every year. He was on the transfer sheet for $50,000 last year, and we didn't transfer a penny out of the general fund into his account. So there's a lot of, if they spend their whole budget, we end up transferring it. If they don't, we don't end up transferring the money, and it just stays into, so I'm not gonna transfer out all of this that I've projected, and then that makes my balances higher. It just stays in the aid to secondary and unorganized road, so. And that's with anybody in the general fund, what they don't spend, it's just in there.
I'm gonna do a calculation here real quick. You done, Wayne?
yeah.
Dwayne, I'm sorry. What's your thoughts?
Well, I don't have a comment at this time, but I will have when we start looking at trimming department budgets again, because we've already gone through all that. Now, what are we gonna cut? That's my question, and I'll have some thoughts and comments on that at that time.
Well, maybe at that time could be today somewhat.
Well, it was mentioned that we'll do that when we approve the preliminary budget, but,
That's today.
I mean, a final.
Okay, Shannon, when's the final budget due?
We set a date of September 16th
For our hearing, right?
for our public hearing, yep. But then it's not due until October 10th, so we still have the October 7th meeting
Okay.
to make those final decisions. Well, all the way up to October 9th, actually.
Okay, I just don't wanna be where we're gonna get stampeded into.
Well, the other
quick
question
decisions, you know?
I had, Mr. Chairman, was, are we looking at salary increases or not? Apparently not.
At this point, we're looking at what's in front of us. Unless you wanna talk about it, we can still change it.
Well, if it's not on there, we can't do that when we approve the final because we're increasing everything.
Understand, okay, are we talking salary increases today, or are you talking final budget?
Well, my question is, are we gonna talk about salary increases today? Because we can't do it later on.
That's up to you. If you wanna bring it up, that's part of our preliminary budget discussion. If anybody wants to bring it up, whatever topic's on your mind.
Well, I think the full commission should weigh in on that subject if they wanna do that.
Okay, I'm gonna write down, we're gonna talk about that. Merlin, do you have anything that you wanted to specifically talk about?
You talking about salaries, or are we talking about the whole budget?
The whole budget, anything that you want to discuss that's different than what's been proposed on this sheet of paper? Because we already discussed everything on this sheet of paper. So if there's anything additional that you want to change, now's the time to bring it up.
Nope.
Okay, I don't have anything additional that I want to bring up. I lied. I didn't mean to. I want to give you guys two numbers. If we had revenues of, if our expenses were 85% of our revenue would have to be $6.9 million instead of 5.9. If we wanna get to where our expenses are 85% of our revenues, we'd have to raise another $1 million. If we want our expenses to only be 90% of our revenue, so we have a little bit of, we start building our general fund back up to where it should be, we would have to have about $6.5 million. So the two subjects that we're gonna talk about, do we want to talk about Dwayne? Dwayne wanna talk about salaries. Anything further you wanna talk about? We're all gonna talk about this, salaries. Okay, anything specific you wanna bring up?
Well, according to the expenditure revenue sheet, we can't talk about it, because there's no room to put it in there.
We can talk about it, but right now, if we want, there is room. This is the time. We can't raise them again after today.
Well, I know that, but according to what we have in front of us, if we talk about salary increases,
You have to change the mill levy.
yes.
Okay? Is that what you're wanted? I'm asking. Are you willing to raise the mill levy? Basically is what the question comes down
In
to.
past years, we always had a cushion there where we could decide how much of a raise we wanted to give. And this year, we don't have that cushion.
Well, we can if we raise the mill levy.
And that's what we've done in past years, Dwayne, is you guys have given me a recommendation and I've given you the worksheet saying that this raise is gonna cost this much, and then we've figured it in and raised the revenues to meet that.
But what I'm kind of saying here is, one example is like that employee that left the landfill went because he got a better paying job. There are better paying jobs out there. And, are we going to lose employees because of that? That's a question I have. We've already had that happen, so.
Okay, there's two ways of getting it. One is to raise the taxes, and the other way is to cut some expenses. If you cut expenses, you're gonna have that cushion too. And go ahead.
No, you finish your thought.
We've gone through all the department expenses already, other than salary. Now, if you want my personal opinion, we need to cut some more expenses. Rather than, if we do both, if we cut expenses, the public would probably understand raising taxes. That's how I see it. We're raising taxes minimally right now, 2.1%. That's the inflation rate, basically. I think it's 1.85 or something, so it's a responsible way that we've done it. Now, one thing I'm gonna echo what Dwight said. Ideally, in the perfect world, if we're putting $700,000 from the health insurance to pay the health insurance, our general fund revenue should now be $700,000 higher than our expenses. We're actually using it to balance the budget. His comment is true.
But we're using it for what it's intended for.
That,
though, right?
there's no question on it. We're doing what we should be doing with that money. That is just sound fiscal money management. In the perfect world, if we do that, now our revenue should be $700,000 higher than our expenses, and it's still equal. So the logic there is correct. I'll agree with Shanna, and I'll lobby for that, and I won't change my mind. That is a responsible way to handle that revenue.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
how many of these other funds are we going to consider responsible, and pretty soon your funds are?
Are you done?
Yep.
Okay, the answer to that is we need to look at each one individually and see see which ones that we have. We can have up to 75% of what we need in reserves, right? And this one here had 200%, so we did it, basically, right, Shannon? It's roughly. So we would have to look at those other ones individually and decide what percentage we want to keep in reserve. And then we could go by historical. So the answer to that question is we don't know. We'd have to look at them individually.
Well, I'm just looking back at one fund that was spent in the general fund, and now we're putting back in that fund.
You're talking about the building fund. We are.
And that was for the same reason, because we were out of money.
Yes, but we're not doing that today. You agree? We're moving forward.
Merlin had something.
Well, to increase the general fund by 705,000, you'd have to increase it by 13.5 mils, which would be an 18.5% increase in taxes.
So, you guys hear what Shanna said?
I think so.
It said, don't do that or else. It'll be hard. She didn't say those words. But the public wouldn't accept that. I won't accept that. I just won't. The next thing we have to do is cut expenses. And I will make suggestions for cutting some of those expenses. Today, we've gone through them all and we've made our deal. We just need to approve our preliminary budget. When it comes time for the final budget, I'm gonna make recommendations for cutting that. I need to do some more homework first. Right now, I just got an idea. Go ahead.
Just to touch on what Dwayne had mentioned, raises, what were dollars and cents type raise or percentage raise, or how many dollars were we just reflecting?
It's up for you to state that. Right now, that's up to you. You tell me. I'm not for any raise this year because our revenue matches our expenses,
Yeah.
even though we put 700 grand in there.
Well, Mr. Chairman, what, just asking a question, how much would, 50 cent an hour raise for each employee increase our taxes?
Or how many dollars is
You'd have to take their total number of employees, just a really quick figure. You take the total number of employees, take it times 2,080,
right?
take it times 0.75.
0.75?
Well, you said 50 in our, you have to add at least 50% more on for benefits.
Okay, I understand. Well, how many total employees do we have? Are we
Just-
privy to that information?
Absolutely, she can give us a rough idea. Any idea, payroll, how many employees we're paying?
Well, we have about 67 FTEs, and then you have your boards.
Let's just do
Those
the
don't get a raise.
full-time employees, 67.
Roughly.
Okay, let's round it out to 67, okay?
Then you have to remember that the sheriff's department's on Garcia Act,
Right, let's just,
Under
and
what?
road department has budgeted overtime.
right, we won't do the overtimes thing. Just 67 times 2,080 times 0.75. That'll give you a ballpark figure. It will be higher than that, but that'll give you a ballpark figure.
No, we have a
It's
dollar.
$100,000,
How much?
104,520.
That's what it would cost us,
I would say,
approximately?
yeah, I would say I would shoot high, go
110.
150.
Yeah,
I
thank
mean,
you.
with overtime and things in there,
How much was it?
150. So you're looking at, just say roughly 3 mils, adding 3 mils to your
Mhm.
budget, so it'll be 87,557.
And that would calculate to what,
That'd be a 5.7% increase in taxes.
including the 2.1 that's there now?
Yeah, that would be total,
5 point what?
7. Which, to be honest, guys, I don't think that's a lot to be putting on our preliminary estimate.
Well, that's another thing, all this built-in overtime, that's killing us.
It's a reality though.
But I don't,
Not if we had where we're supposed to be at 85%. If our expenses were 85% of our revenues, we wouldn't have to worry about that overtime.
Okay, so if we want to have, if that's what we want, you've just raised the expenses by $150,000,
Well,
and our revenue hasn't gone up that much. Of course, we'd have to do that is raise our revenue.
you know, I think all 5 of us sitting here know exactly what happened to our revenues versus our expenditures have been outpacing our revenues for years, and I think we all 5 know where that's happening. But I got a big problem with, everybody, all the employees having to feel that when it was caused by a certain number of departments. We have people out there that work their tails off. The road department worked during this whole COVID thing. What did they get for that? Not a thing. They worked their hours, they did their work. Thanks, guys. You could have done it like everybody else and stayed home one day a week. Things aren't being handled fair at all. And the road department isn't the only one. The landfill was open every day.
Fair points.
There is so much resentment in that road department, the way they've been treated since 15. First, there's a salary survey. We use it for 1 year, then we get rid of it. They're still on that. And I can't say that I blame them, but they gotta go on. That's past, that's done. I mean, we have reference to departments that don't trust us. That's one department that probably shouldn't trust us.
Does anybody, we've talked about salaries, in order to do that, we'd have to raise the mills. And it would be raised from 45 to what, Shanna? 50?
48,
Huh?
48.45.
Oh, I see what you did, you just took 3 times the 52, roughly,
Well, yeah.
ballpark. If you guys want to raise revenue, today's the day you can do it.
Revenue, expenditure.
Oh, revenue.
What it would be.
You'd be raising the well, you're raising the revenue so that you can have possibility of raising the expenditures. But if you don't raise it today, you won't have that possibility.
My feelings are we raise the tax increase 5 to 5% to allow for room for 50 cent an hour raise for our employees.
5.7%. That's what it would come to.
I suppose we'll have to go with 5.7, but there are gonna be cuts made before the final budget, I guarantee it. At least I'm gonna suggest cuts.
Okay, so you stated to raise tax increase to 5.7% to allow for a 50-cent increase.
50 cent an hour raise.
Okay.
And if we can find enough cuts, we won't need to raise taxes that much.
We have a motion on the floor to raise revenues to possibly have a raise. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. Mr. Chairman?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Shannon, please read the motion.
To raise the tax increase to 5.7% to allow for a 50-cent hour raise. And if we can find enough cuts, we won't need to raise taxes that much. Do
Well,
you
Shannon,
want me to put that under a comment?
don't put the whole 5% in there. Increase the taxes 3%. We already, or 3 points, it'd be what, 2.6%, because we already got a 2.1%. So the total is 5%, 5.7. So don't put in there,
Raise taxes to, how about to raise tax increase for a total of 5.7?
okay,
Is
and
that
then
right?
allow how much, I want in there the percent that we need for the 50-cent an hour raise.
50 cent, okay, hold on, let me,
I did-
raise tax increase for a total of 5.7% to allow for a 50-cent hour a raise, which is 3.
I don't like that
Which
motion.
is 3.5% and 3.6%.
I'm not,
Or how about you to raise taxes an additional 3.6% on top of the 2.1 to allow for a 50-cent hour raise?
You can withdraw and restate if you choose.
well, I'm not making a motion for the 2.1. I don't want that in my motion at all.
Well, why don't we just leave this as a recommendation then?
That's fine.
Can we do that, Mr. Chairman? And then when you are doing the total, it'll show a 5.7 on the bottom, because I'll have to go change that to 48.45.
I'm thinking,
If you wanna recess for a little bit, I can do that, if that's the only change we wanna do.
That would, you just said, right, the mill would go to 48.45, right?
Instead of 45.45.
let's recess for
Okay.
10, 15 minutes.
Do you want me to go change that?
Yes, please do. Good idea.
Okay, wait, should we withdraw his motion?
Yeah, I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. and-
But Shanna, I would like the 2.1, the raise that, or the increase that's already figured in to balance the budget. I would, the figure for the 50-cent an hour raise.
We just talked about making this a recommendation, so let her go get her paper, bring the numbers back.
I'll try to split the percentage for you.
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying.
And you guys have to allow for a restroom break.
You told me something the other day. You all need to calm down. Are you calm?
Doing better, well, we're just getting started, but we should probably talk about cuts today too, and not fire around until we have to wait for that general hearing.
Okay,
And Barb has one area he was gonna
That way, you know, people can,
mull it over.
have an idea of what we're looking at for cutting, instead of coming in at the last minute and saying, yeah, we're looking at cutting your budget.
okay, I'm gonna leave now because there's a quorum, but I agree with you. Why not?
Okay,
We'll do that.
so are you gonna sing a song? Okay, go ahead.
First, be smarter than the
Wabash Cannonball, that's what you're gonna sing for us.
Smarter than the mic.
Go ahead.
I'll put it on.
Oh, you're not done singing yet?
Yeah. Well, why don't they, sometimes when they have speakers, they could send these mics around and people could, you know.
Well, that way people probably might hear them. They wanna be secret.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, this mic here is just like our mic, it's so, it depends on the guy's voice, you know, like Wayne Windhurst, he was sitting way over, you could hear him like nothing to it, and you get Ken Miller there, you can't hear nothing.
Yep. Well, he wants to keep his stuff quiet though, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really wanted to know if we had extra fun, because we get a rough winter, the public don't care out there.
No, they
They
want
bus is on the main route, if the bus isn't on that route, it's not on one of the main roads anyhow.
Mhm.
So you kinda go, well, it's kind of a lame statement, I'd say.
Yep, and then of course you got police, ambulance, and fire that need to get
That's
around too.
exactly. And you know, there was a time, and I think we still maybe do it, but it's something that, I mean, some kind of on, you know, we had senior citizens out there that had medical needs, you know,
Mhm.
had cancer, had to go every,
Yep.
every third day or something. And when Gerald was on and Adolf and stuff, I mean, we told Nelson, them blades go by there, get clean into their yard, because the last thing we want is a midnight call.
And you can't get through.
And we can't get through, and now I gotta go get a blade operator out of bed,
Mhm.
and the ambulance is stuck in the damn place, you know. Again, one of those, I mean, it's, you don't really wanna broadcast that, but these are things that you need to do.
Yeah, just common sense stuff.
Just common sense stuff that,
Because
so
if you don't, well, you get somebody
Yeah,
dies
midnight,
or
yeah,
something like that.
Midnight run, now everybody can try to, get the ambulance out of the ditch.
Yep,
And you drove by there today, you know what I mean?
yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, sometimes it's, one of those things you kinda gotta do, and that was, those senior people, they normally didn't ask for much all these years, to be true, pay taxes.
That's one of the benefits of living in North Dakota. You got snowstorm piled up and you gotta take care of it.
Snowstorm and piled up.
However you wanna do it. I'm not supposed to say it.
Snowstorm and piled up.
Where?
North Dakota.
Over by his place, then he woke up from his dream.
Scribbling all over those pretty sheets of paper.
That's what they're there for. You did a good job for scribbles. How big a pig did you get? Really? You got your wine shirt on, not you're having a luau at your place. Later tonight.
You should have stopped.
Big oyster can for you.
He's been after, last night, we were outside quite a ways behind our house, and this mule deer comes up and starts eating corn.
That's my sausage.
And that mule deer's like from here to the front doorway. We had to walk towards it to get in the house. They just kept looking at us and
Like I
didn't
said,
even run
I
away.
knew it was safe.
like you said, I'll help you out with that.
Yeah. Come sometime.
November 7th or thereabouts, we'll get some sausage.
Get the Cavalier helmet on, because the hunter is out on the prairie.
Shoot right from the backyard. Mary'd be impressed with that.
She's a good on shot, I'll tell you what.
Yeah?
Anything about 250 yards or less, she's gonna get it. Pretty accurate.
No, I'm talking this 25, 50 yard deal like you get.
That's what it would be.
Then I can get them.
That one there was what, 28 yards
You throw a rock and get them.
from the window. I actually used my house as a blind.
Yeah? Yeah, we'll fix up a little bit, we'll window up.
I got it. It's
Okay.
not on.
Good, I'm glad.
And it's a tall window, so you can go like this.
Yeah. You got a little windage.
Dwight, are you okay? You're sure sweating.
I don't feel good today.
You got COVID-20.
I'm guessing,
You're starting for next year, COVID-20.
just had an upset stomach the last 3 days.
That's one of those, yeah, you probably should get tested.
You know, testing,
They're doing testing right now in Beulah.
Yeah, gotta dismiss them so we can drive to Beulah.
Get tested and then come back.
Can you get,
See if it's the wrong test or.
can you get tested to see if you had it before in Beulah? 'Cause I think I had it in December.
Well, you can get that one blood test,
Yeah,
I
but it
think.
takes 3 days. You guys gonna wait for me?
Yeah,
For the
Result.
results?
yeah, we'll let you know what we did when you get back.
That's if it's positive. If it's negative, it takes longer. 7 days, I think.
No, that was just the ornament coming out of you, that wasn't COVID.
December? Well, that's the sickest I've ever been, and I went to the doctor, and he said, it's not the flu. It's really sick, you better go home.
I heard guys in the fire department say the same thing, January and December, that were quite sick, and they
actually felt like a whip. Felt like I barely took care of myself. I couldn't do anything for anybody else.
You know, they wanna change that name of the Custer Park in Bismarck, you know. Are they gonna wanna change the name of Custer Health?
Probably.
Yeah, that'll be
This thing goes on and on and on, and on. I don't know,
Where does it start and where does it quit? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
Well, the reason they're doing that, they're saying, you know, Custer had good health when he left, man.
Yeah, I think so.
Rough Rider Electric's gonna have
When
to
he came,
change.
when he got, you know, put in the ground there, his health wasn't very good anymore.
How come Rough Rider Electric?
Rough Riders,
Oh,
they were done in invaded Cuba.
Cause they're talking about changing Custer Park down South Dakota, that, where the buffalo are and stuff. They wanna get rid of that.
Well, I think if President Trump gets his face put on the Mount Rushmore,
Yep,
that'll make all the difference.
yep. They wanna do that next week, I think,
Yeah,
before the election.
I think he thinks that's gonna be an overnight deal.
I never even heard about that.
You didn't? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Wants
on
to
this
phase that
morning.
on there?
Yeah, he does.
I heard they wanna take all of them down.
Well, except for his.
I don't know.
Okay, everybody, it's 10:32. We'll call the meeting back to order. Now, this is a new sheet, 8/10. Okay, it's got the latest date on it. Good job. You both do. Excellent. You were talking about papers, so excellent. So we got a brand new worksheet and a brand new budget. Okay. You guys will notice that the mule levy went up from 45.45 to 48.45. That's 3 mills. 1 mill is 52, one mill is a little over 52. So if you take 3 times the 52, that will allegedly cover a 50%, 50 cents an hour raise, which was done on very unspecific calculation.
Now, you take the 87.57 and subtract the 84.57
I'm not sure, where are you at?
on the budget information page on the bottom.
Okay,
That's 3, right?
Yep, 3 mills.
So that's what we would be increasing
Well, we'd be increasing,
for the 50 cent an hour raise.
yep, it'd be 3 mills, so it'd go from 2.16% increase to a 5.79.
2.16 to 5.79.
79.
Well, that's over 3.
I'm talking percent though, not mills. 3 mills is gonna be the difference between the two. It's like 3.6%, 3.5.
Do you understand what she's saying there?
Yeah.
And 2.16 times, it's 1.0216 times, what's the base number you're using at, Shannon?
For what?
That 2.16% increase or the 5.79 is based on what? Is it
Last year's mill levy is the increase over last year.
last year's mill levy or last year's approved budget?
Last year's mill levy is.
Last year's mill levies, okay. Okay.
And again, last year's taxable, or this year's taxable valuation is lower than,
It's about $144 less a mill than what we received last year.
so that's gonna equalize it out somewhat, it's not like the whole thing's going.
It's gonna equalize $450.
We're watching every nickel we can.
Okay. Okay, we've talked about possibly adding to our revenues. Does anybody have a motion?
Okay, I'm gonna try it again. Due to shortages beyond our control, including COVID, I would like to make a motion to increase the mill levy by 3 mills to allow a 50-cent per hour raise for our employees. And I can repeat that, I got it wrote down, Shanna.
Okay, I got COVID, I'm up to COVID, what's the rest?
All this stuff before make a motion isn't part of the motion.
Right,
He said, due to COVID, and then he said, I wanna make a motion, so the other stuff wasn't part of the motion.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
but I'd like it in there, what I said
Right,
up to the motion. I
okay,
would
so
like
due to
it in.
shortages beyond our control, including COVID, you move
I-
to,
I'll make a motion to increase the mill levy by 3 mills to allow a 50-cent per hour raise for our employees.
Do you wanna say possible?
Well, possible, yeah.
Cause if you say you're gonna do that,
Yeah.
then we're locked.
To possibly increase the mill levies?
No?
oh,
No, it's gotta
to
be.
allow for a possible
Yeah.
50-cent an hour raise?
Okay,
Let Shannon read it back to us, please.
Okay, due to shortages beyond control, including COVID, Berger moves to increase the mill levy by 3 mills to allow for a possible 50-cent an hour raise for our employees.
I'll go along with that.
Okay,
Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm kinda getting bit by both cheeks here, one on either side. If you remember when we started this up, I said, you know, I'm not, looking for a tax increase, but also I would like to get some kind of an increase in salaries for our employees, so. Like I said, I'm getting bit with both, but I think there's probably gonna be more biting before we're all done with this thing anyway, so.
Merlin, I am too. I've been against tax increases my whole 4 years, so. And there was 1 year during my term where we didn't give our employees a raise. The year before last year, they didn't get any raise.
Any more discussion?
Call a question?
We'll talk on that, but
is there-
before we vote, I wanna ask Shannon to read the motion one more time.
Due to shortages beyond our control, including COVID, Berger moved to increase mill levy by 3 mills to allow for a possible 50-cent an hour raise for our employees.
Okay. Dwight, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne?
A vote aye.
Merlin?
Aye.
Dwayne?
Aye.
How vote aye, motion passed. Okay. As long as we're still talking budget. I would like to know if anybody wants to talk about, we talked about possibly raising taxes. I put my darn paper someplace. It's right here. Does anybody want to talk about decreasing or anything about expenses? Any further discussion about expenses?
Yeah, I think, you know, what we should do is take a look at what areas and things we wanna cut. Now we might get some idea with that thing, because are we gonna be talking and looking at this budget again before it goes to our public hearing? after it goes to public hearing, then we're going to do more talk with that. So today we can take a look at this, or
Okay.
do we wanna fiddle and diddle?
Well, I think, don't we have most of the recommendations that we've made as far as cutting
We'll
expenses?
talk about them today, we're gonna list them again today.
Okay,
Whatever they are, let's list them and put them on the table. Merlin, I agree with you. Do you have any ideas where we could cut?
Not really, I would just like to know if there's a special session of the legislature coming up here before the end of the year where we might be decreased in our funding for this year even, but we won't know that. I guess it's just a guessing by golly thing, because the state revenues are gonna look kinda ill for this year and for the forecast next year. And Thursday, the budget section meets to talk about where we might be getting this extra money we talked about for counties and stuff, so, you know, there's a lot of ifs and buts in some of this stuff, but I think we've talked about little things for cutting, but I noticed there was some brief discussion about cutting positions and reducing some of those areas. Maybe we could take a look at some of those again today, and if there's other ones that we haven't talked about, maybe take a look at those too. Since we do have a little time left here before we're done for the day.
Okay, I'm next on the line, so I'll just go down the line. I do have a suggestion that a way that we can reduce our budget, and I haven't gone through all of them. Like I said earlier, I want to do a little bit more homework, but I'm gonna put it on the table. I would like to look at the possibility of the sheriff reducing his budget by at least $250,000. And he makes the recommendations to the board how he would do so.
as per our policy manual. It's step by step in our policy manual. But it's your suggestion, Marvin, so.
I'm gonna write down sheriff reduced budget by at least $250,000, and he brings his recommendations to the board, how he would do so.
And when's that gonna happen?
Right now, we're not saying that it is gonna happen.
No, when's he gonna come with his recommendations, you think?
He will do that once we make a motion that we're gonna do that. Right now, we're just discussing who has ways that they might want to reduce the budget.
Now, is this,
There's no motion.
If he doesn't show up, then what? Then we cut it where we see fit?
In my opinion, yes.
question, does this include the budget cuts we've already made, or are they all want budget cuts we already suggested, they all go away, and this is
Additional,
I think
in addition?
This would be new.
sheriff reduced budget by at least an additional $250,000. As of 8/10/20.
If you guys aren't making any preliminary cuts today, I would say just say it as of the approved preliminary budget.
Okay, I can do that.
Because that's already prepared in one chunk right here.
Okay, instead of putting a date on there, Shannon made a recommendation, I'll agree with her.
What is,
So again, are we gonna hear from the sheriff before our public hearing, during, or after?
The way I see it, Merlin, the sheriff doesn't even need to answer it unless we all vote for this and it becomes a motion. Then he has to come in and talk to us. So, but let me ask you your question. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Explain what you're trying to, you're saying that if we make this recommendation, do you want him to come in and talk to us?
Well, I would hope so, unless he doesn't care. If he doesn't care, well, we can cut the $250,000 out of there. Just so we're not screwing up public safety.
Okay, well, let's talk about this very specific one. Do we as a board today wanna make this recommendation?
Mr. Chairman?
Is that what you're asking?
What I'd like to do is listen to what everybody has to say about cuts and then think about these things
All right.
and then make our motions.
All right, I was going down our recommendation, okay, so far Merlin said nothing specific. He agrees that there's some ideas of place cuts, but he didn't have anything specific. I had this one. Dwayne, do you have any ideas?
Well, I think we went through every department, at least 2 times
Yep, we did.
and made cuts. In a comment to the sheriff's department, with Merlin's comment on public safety, I think we really cut that place last year, and I think they're down to bare bones. So, you know, if there's anything there to cut, I'd be willing to see that, but other than what's been gone through in each department, I don't really see where there can be any cuts made. That's my comment.
Wayne?
Yeah, again, public safety, we definitely, have to make sure that, folks are there if there's an incident, and, I almost agree, I mean, with Dwayne here, we went through those budgets, I don't know where, I mean, we might be able to slither out a little bit, but, that's a pretty big hit, I don't know where he's gonna get it from.
Is that all you have?
Yeah, that's about it.
I don't want to interrupt. Dwight?
Well, as far as the public safety standpoint, if we have him make his cuts and go according to our policy manual, we'll be the ones that will protect the public safety. I feel that there's room in them departments other than the public, well, the patrol standpoint. And if it's done according to the policy manual, we'll be the ones that'll decide if he cuts public safety, patrolling, or whatever versus this jail. That's my feelings on it. 2 years ago, he did not go according to the policy manual. He just went and did it. And I feel that the patrol side of it did suffer from that. We can't let that happen again.
One question, I guess, I mean, I don't know if he's got 3 or 4 people under this, task force, but I'm just kinda wondering if we need that much personnel to run this operation efficient. I don't know how that works, I don't know what it takes to run that, but, that'd be one area that,
Well, you don't have to have a specific task force as such. And if we didn't have one, then those responsibilities as far as, what the task force is, which is, basically drugs and those types of things, that would just fall back to the regular sheriff's department itself, so, you know, you got so many people in there right now. If you take out the task force, then again, you just wouldn't have something called South Sakakawea Task Force, you'd have just Mercer County Sheriff's Department. Now, that'd work.
Can it be blended in, I mean, so you utilize.
Well, if you don't have one, then it goes with the staff that you have, minus what's in the task force. See, like I said, it used to be taken care of by BCI, but
Oh, sure.
that went by the boards, and so individual counties have picked it up. We don't share our task force with anybody else, we're just Mercer County, I believe. So I visited with some other sheriffs that, you know,
Uh-huh,
there's maybe 3 or 4 counties involved with their task force, and they split the costs up.
sure.
So I don't think we do anything with Oliver, and I don't think we do anything with Plain. See, you know, it'd be nice to have more of that explanation too at the same time when the sheriff comes in to tell us how he's gonna cut the $250,000.
What's Dunn Center use?
Dunn Center? I think there probably was Stark. I don't think there was McKinsey, I think there probably was Stark County,
Probably, huh?
and maybe Billings in that part of the territory, I'm not sure. I bet you got it right there, don't you?
What's the fund?
21, 28.
It used to be Mercer McLean or McLean
Yeah.
Mercer, didn't it?
I
Yeah,
wanna say that we have an MOU with Dunn County.
Say that?
I wanna say that we have an MOU with Dunn County for our task force, memorandum of understanding.
Well, it's not on the revenue sheets.
Okay, the expenditures in 2019 is $401,000.
In 20, it was 425 approved, and this year it's 399,976, so a decrease of 5.95%. And that's because of employees dropping benefits.
It's basically the same, 400.9 or 399. Almost identical.
well, anyhow, if there's, you know, some blending that can be done, I don't know, as of today, evidently, they must just do drug task forcing and that's it. I mean, maybe I'm thinking that because they're all deputies, they were all trained as patrol or on the road type people, and,
That's just what I was saying, Wayne, maybe we
Yeah.
need an explanation exactly, duties and what, the responsibilities and all that, because, you know,
the numbers.
if we cut this off, then our, you know,
Right.
and it can't be picked up like it needs to be, are we saying, well, we're opening Mercer County up to, all kinds of drug traffic we can have, you know, we gotta watch that too, but
Gotta have that too.
again,
Can
we need
do
to
it-
have an explanation of what, you know, who's doing what with this thing, I think.
Can we do it better? You know,
Yeah, you know, with less.
with a little less money and still, because the worst is to see somebody have to go down the road and you don't have a job. You've got your whole career going here and now. I don't want, you know,
Yep.
don't want that neither.
To me, it goes hand in glove with, we can raise taxes, but we also need to cut some of our expenses.
So, Mr. Chairman, in summation here, then, are we saying, well, okay, we want $250,000 from the sheriff's budget, and then we're fine the rest of the way through with all the rest of the budget?
I'm saying that's the one that I
Well, nobody
recommend.
else has said much, so that's, you know, if we're saying we cut the 250 out of there, then everybody's fine with the remainder of the budget at this point.
By cutting 250 out, and adding 150, we're basically increasing our revenue stream by $100,000.
You're taking off the 150 for raises. I can take it.
Expenses go up 150, and then they go down 250, so basically, we're 100,000 more to the good. If we do both. We don't have to do either or. But cuts can be done later.
I do have,
Pardon me?
I missed some things on adding. Maybe it's too late already.
No, we're not. Go ahead.
I would like to bring Ron Crawley up to the state average for his department. I
Which is
think
what?
it's a couple bucks an hour, if I remember right. I don't have them sheets with me. Heather, I think, is entitled to a step increase and a raise. And Darby talked about a raise for her part-time, which is not very much money, and I still would like to see some money budgeted for a new computer system.
You talking financial software, what are you
Yes,
talking?
financial software. And I was hoping that's what that 700,000 could be used for, but we already spent that.
We did.
Them are just suggestions.
Well, if they're not done today, they're not gonna happen. Because we're not gonna have the money to increase later on. Financial software, I'm gonna estimate that at $330,000.
Could it be over 2 years?
Don't think so.
You think they'd all install it in 1 year?
Might just take a couple months.
Yeah, it would be a one-year thing. My reading their implementation plans, it's hopefully it should only take like 3 months. All done. There's an education process, initiate, implement, test. It's that's 2 meals right there. Oh, that's 6 meals. That's 6 meals for that. I'll be very blunt, you guys, this is making me unpopular as heck, but financial software is more, to me, probably have a greater benefit than the 250,000 on the task force that I suggested. That is an uneducated statement, the sheriff would have to educate me on that. We definitely need the software, there's just no reason, no way we can not have that.
And there's no place we put money away for a new software program,
We have not yet.
Not yet, no.
so. Thinking back then, this wasn't thought of to, kind of start saving for a few years ago. When was the software that we're using right now? What our computer program, when did that start up?
1990.
Since 90? So it's obsolete.
We just upgraded our system on, not last December, the December before, but it's AS400,
How much did that cost?
$36,000.
Throwing good money after bad now.
Yeah, we were then too, but we were assured that we could get another 10 years out of it. We ended up getting 2.
Now, maybe more if we can't afford the new system.
Well, yeah.
maybe you'll get your 10 years.
I thought they said 3 to 4, but
Okay.
$330,000, you said.
$330,000.
if you look at the passbook savings and the CD interest account, is there any reason we can't put that towards software?
Well,
I know we said last week
give us,
unknowns.
I have the, do you have that, what's our balance in each? I'm glad you brought those up, because I was,
CD interest is 123,333, and passbook savings is 19,191.
okay,
What was, could you repeat them again, Shanna, please?
CD interest is 123,333, and passbook savings is 19,191.
what's the typical yearly raise on that? And I could look that up if I had.
To date, the CD interest account has increased by 32,951, and the passbook savings has increased by 4227.
So it's roughly $36,000 a year that we're gaining. Here's what, Shannon opened up the door and I'm put this out there. I may have said it in an early meeting, I still want to get an audit this year. I really do. I was hoping that if we could get that passed, when we got farther along here, that we would use that CD interest account to pay for the audit, which would be roughly $30,000. So that would be down to 90,000. If we get the audit, we haven't allocated any of our CD or passbook interest in 2020, we could use it for that.
Well, if we don't get the audit, it no sense spending money on a computer system,
Yep.
plain
We
and
have-
simple.
We have the audit,
For
in
next
the
year,
budget, yeah.
for next year. I still wanna get it this year, so that we can get the financial package next year. Let me finish my thought here, I'm talking slow, so. If we did the audit this year, we have the money for it, we can take it out of CD interest. That would reduce that to about 90,000, plus next year we're gonna get about 30,000, we'd be back up to 120. And our passbook would be up to about 25,000. That's 150,000. Is what we would possibly have next year that we could put towards software, financial software. Now, if you notice on her revenue stream, she doesn't have that listed, to my knowledge, anyplace, right, Shanna?
I do.
Where is it?
Which sheet are you looking at?
I'm looking at this.
It's on the right-hand side, under special revenue, special funds revenue. Second and third from the bottom. They've estimated 22,000 for CD interest to gain and 8,000 for the passbook savings interest to gain.
But it's not allocated towards any expense.
No, absolutely not.
Okay? That's the point I wanted to make.
Oh.
It's not allocated towards any expense.
So,
Okay, so let's go back in the words. If even, let me see if I'll say this, see, you guys can correct. Even though we approved the preliminary budget today, and later on, this is 2020, we'd be able to use that money regardless. It has nothing to do with next year. If we wanted to use it for the audit this year, we could do that. We just have to make a motion and vote for it. Because that money's in those funds.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just a thought, is it possible to have a technology levy added to our budget or no? Would that have to be voted on by the people? Or you
we
can't?
took it out.
Huh?
That was one of the levies that got taken out and combined with the general fund.
The legislature did that? So we can, okay, because I was thinking that would be something to look at.
How much room is there in their technology fund?
What technology fund, the one the one that's in the budget,
Yeah,
that just goes by expenditures, so I don't put extra in there.
so is there things in there that could be postponed 1 year?
Well, we have the computer rotation schedule, that's the only thing that's in there. Otherwise, it's just social security that comes out.
Aren't there printers and stuff that come out of that fund too?
No, nobody put a printer in there. Just Darby's printer maintenance contract is in there.
Okay. You guys, let me offer you guys an idea. I'm still going with that, if we get enough information and I can persuade you guys, we will get an audit this year, we have the funds to do it for this year. What I'm going to offer you guys now is that the financial software, there's no point in getting that until the audit, so we don't know if we're gonna get that. And next year, we can determine if we can afford the financial software or not, even though it's not in a line item budget. If we wanted to get the financial software next year, how would you recommend it, Shanna? How would you have any ideas, thoughts?
Well, there'll be some budget money from the money spent for an audit next year that we won't have to have if we do one this year. Plus, as far as I'm concerned, them audits we've been getting, we're just throwing money out the window.
Okay, so what Dwight said is that we would have, if we do the audit this year, we have the money and interest in there to do it, we'd have $30,000 that's budgeted next year for the audit that we could use towards the financial software.
But you'd be decreasing your CD interest by $30,000 this year. So it's a wash.
But at least it's a wash, it's not a loss of the 30,000, so we still have that amount of money, okay. Yeah, we'd end up having about 180,000 next year that we could use towards software.
I
I-
guess my recommendation would probably be to just wait and see where revenues and expenditures come in at the end of the year.
I'm gonna push for an audit yet this year, we have the funds to do it, the financial software. In order for me to put that on this budget, I'd have to raise the taxes another 5 mils, and I'm not willing to do that. I'd say let's just keep that on our radar that it needs to be done. What's your thoughts on there, Merlin?
Well, do we have, RFPs coming in? And when are we gonna be doing that? Is that at the September meeting, or is it gonna be an October meeting when we're gonna look at those?
I thought it was the next meeting, actually,
So did I.
because the RFPs are due,
Next Wednesday's meeting?
yeah, because RFPs are due to me this week.
Okay.
We talked about that on July 15th. Open on the next meeting at 11 a.m. Next week we open at 11.
And did we ask that RFP that we sent out, or people are asking for a specific timetable of when we want the audit finished by, started and finished by?
We didn't put any specifications like that on there.
Yeah, but it's gonna be after the fiscal year here, I'm sure, before we get an audit report. It's gonna be probably January, February, or March.
Well, at my meeting down in Bismarck a couple weeks ago, they said, the state said they had 23 people on their waiting list to get audited.
If they get the bid from us.
So that'd make us 24.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're not gonna drop everything.
I would assume that this is August, we would have this by the end of November,
I doubt it.
but we don't know that.
I don't think so, Marvin, that's
Don't think so?
wishful thinking.
Think so?
Yes.
Just a suggestion with this software, calculating you got about 180,000
Possibly. yes.
possibly.
Yeah.
You know, there could be such a thing where you could make a deal with the software company to get the balance of that the following year or whatever.
That's a really good possibility.
Because, you know, I think that's been done before.
And if not, there isn't any reason that we couldn't buy it in December of next year.
Well,
We
I
would pay
mean-
for half and half.
you'd get it down on paper in the contract and whatever.
They'll probably give you a finance charge or something on that, but I'm sure they would do it.
The 180,000 comes from the interest in passbook savings, that's where it's at.
But
And,
I don't like the,
and if we do the audit this year.
you know, we're always talking about taking money out of what we've got in the savings accounts and that, I don't know if I like this idea about taking money out again.
I don't either. I can't, that's why I said I can't make the recommendation, because in order for me to do it,
To spend money,
$5 bills.
if we got it in a savings place, that's where we should keep it.
And we're trying to get our general fund to have a balance too, right? This here would not, okay, it's all good, Paul. You're right. It's all part of the equation.
Well, and then, I don't know if we're done talking about this subject or not, but Dwight's proposal for the county veterans officer, getting up to par with other veterans officers in the state. That's my portfolio. I talked to him at length, I think, after or during the last meeting we had. And he said he's happy getting what he's getting. So, that's it. I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to put him up too, but,
These two guys?
he said he was okay with what he's getting.
We should resolve that issue, I think.
Well,
I'm sure he wouldn't mind having more, but, you know, I think he realizes the situation we have here too.
Well, and then the other part of that statement is Dunn County. Well, we can't compare ourselves to Dunn County. It's different when you have producers in the backyard helping the revenue side, and we're not Dunn County, I'm sorry.
Okay,
well, we have more services than Dunn County, as far as veterans go. Dunn County doesn't even have a busing program to pay for people that wanna go somewhere, so Mercer County has. And so we do have more services here.
Hopefully better services.
It is better.
Mr. Chairman, who
Yes, sir.
compared ours to, I didn't compare ours to Don County.
No, but
Ron?
Ron.
Well, Ron told me he wasn't even aware that he's that far behind.
No, but they're coming here for busing services, and we can't allow that according to the law, I guess. So the Veterans Services can't allow that, so we can't bust our people anywhere. So
Well,
anyway,
I'm not gonna make a recommendation for financial software right now. The only thing I can say is that I wanna watch the budget next year and see if we can. I'm not gonna raise taxes for it. 5 bills, we just. What's our max we can have for the general fund, Shanna? 60, we're at 48. We gotta decrease our expenditures, guys. That's where it's at.
And the other,
Where we're gonna do that.
I just, go ahead, Wayne.
well, on the other side of the coin, of that, a little bit out of the box, you know, the farm commodities, the grains and soybeans and stuff, they're probably at the lowest point that it's been for quite a while. I mean, there's there's not what you call, a lot of revenue there that they can say, as you said, pay more taxes in, so times aren't, in other words, very good and profitable at the time, you're right.
We've gone through, like Dwayne said, we've gone through these expenses twice. The only thing that's left is employment, that I see. And I firmly believe that $250,000 from the sheriff's department, him tell us how to do it, as long as he follows the policy manual, there's no light going out. That's one area. Merlin, you said let's do it. Give us,
Well-
see if we can possibly make some cuts. The only way we're gonna get financial software and be able to start operating this county is to start making some sacrifices too.
You know, I don't see any others.
Okay.
Maybe you guys can enlighten me.
No, I just gave you my recommendation.
For the sheriff's department.
Yep, that's the only one I can see right now.
So we got all our eggs in one basket now. Are there other baskets out there, you guys?
There are.
Okay, let's hear the baskets.
I'm listening.
We heard from Dwight.
You heard from yourself, and myself, Dwayne, Wayne, and Dwight. We've all talked about it. Does anybody else have any other recommendations? We talked mostly about mine, which was the sheriff's. Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to amend or approve our preliminary budget?
So our preliminary budget has revenues of $6,039,321.
That might be a little low because I didn't go through and use the general max levy calculator. I just added 150 to the taxes on top.
And expenditures of $5,833,461.
Okay? No, 5,889,321. The one you read was 2020's budget.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You see it?
I see the revenues.
2021.
Yep. $589,321.
Just want you guys aware that we increased the revenue stream. But part of the motion was just for raises, so that's gonna stay, it's not for anything else at this point, because that's what the motion read. You know what I'm saying? We can't later on say, well, we don't need all for raises, we're gonna use some of it for something else. His motion said for raises, so. Had the motion been just for three mills, we could adjust things around, but just want you guys aware, this motion is for raises. Right? Okay. Do we have anybody wanna make a motion to amend or approve our preliminary budget as presented today?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second? You should state your motion.
Make a motion to approve the preliminary budget as amended, or do we need that?
Yeah,
Presented today, because it's got today's date on it.
It's presented today,
810.
yes.
Do we have a second?
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Shannon, will you please read the motion?
To approve the preliminary budget as presented today, 8/10/20.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Dwayne?
Aye.
Wayne?
How about I?
Merlin?
Aye.
Dwight?
No.
I'm gonna vote aye. Motion passed. There being no, is there any further business today regarding our preliminary budget? There be no further business on our preliminary budget. We've completed the agenda. Meeting is adjourned. You're looking at me with a question in your eyes. It's pretty high bet for married. I don't know if I've seen a $50 bill since I got married.
I can send you $50 bill.
I didn't know what they look like.
You just got here.
Well, I was here long before you were.
I know.
You were all looking for me, and I said, he's here.
He
Brad, do you
said,
wanna sign off on this?
See if I like quit.
actually, Dwayne said, well, we're not sure he's here, but his truck is.
And then I'll look twice.
Yep.
On file and progress to get everything on paper, so I'm trying to just initial on.
I disappeared down to our Rosario.
Yes, and then I want to.
You might have something that
Sometimes
needs
it
to
changes.
You know, I was.
Hopefully got the
I don't know either.
hopefully I got the
They're
newest,
saving everything.
newest version, so.
But the one we're looking at right here is the one that was approved, so that's about all the guys really gotta concern themselves.
We'll sign it after we get it done too. Yep, let's have,
Somebody get a
Mixed
fine
up.
copy?
no, I am, I'm anal about detail.
Stop it now, that's the next time you're around. Do it right now, so I gotta click over the Levy's all.
I got this changed